Today's story, my dear kids, will be told not by me, but by the one who lived it. A girl who thought she was moving into a simple little home. She will tell you what she saw, what she felt, and maybe, if you listen closely, you'll feel it too. Shh! Sit still now. Don't interrupt her. She's still not sure if she's alone. I moved into the city in March. It felt perfect. Not too crowded, not too quiet. It was my first time living alone. I had found that flat through a property app. It was a 1 BHK on the ground floor of a 25-year-old building, tucked at the end of a leafy lane. The area was so peaceful, with tall jamun trees, mango trees, and neem trees scattered among old bungalows. Some neighbors had planted curry leaves and hibiscus along the boundary walls. People knew each other. They weren't overly nosy, just the right amount of small town in a growing city. The flat itself had big windows, lots of light, and a tiny balcony that offered an angled view of the sky. Some nights I stayed up, and those nights I could watch the moon set from there. And the next morning, I'd see the sun rise through the opposite window. It felt like a lucky find. It was like a bliss straight from heaven. And it was unbelievably cheap. It was spacious, of course. I checked everything. The paint was fresh, the metal mesh on the window was recently installed, probably to keep the bugs out. But it also let in a steady breeze all day. Most of my neighbors were families. A few elderly couples, a mother-son duo, a young couple expecting their first child. The building had a gentle rhythm to it. Evening tea in their balconies, pressure cooker hissing in sync at the afternoon. I remember asking the agent if there was a catch. He just shrugged. It's an old building, he said. People prefer the newer ones. I didn't think of it much. I was just happy to have my own place. The first few weeks were perfect. I bought plants for the balcony. I strung up the fairy lights. On weekends, I had my tea in the morning, watching the birds sing. It felt like I'd finally stepped into my real life. It started raining in May, which was odd as the rains hit the coast here in June. One of the old ladies one day said, "Old rumors say the first rains in May don't just bring pests, they wake up old things that sleep in damp walls." Old people have such fun theories, I thought. I started leaving the window open to let the breeze in. That's when I noticed the webs. At first they were faint, stretched across the ceiling corners, easy to miss. But what struck me as odd was their placement. Some were flat against the walls, horizontal, almost like they weren't meant to catch anything, just marking space. I cleared them out with a broom, thinking it was nothing. But the next day, they were back, thicker and lower. I checked the mesh on the windows. No tears, no gaps. Still, a few days later, I saw the first spider. It was small, thin legs, almost harmless. I crushed it without thinking. But over the next week, they changed. They stayed small in size, but their legs, they were shorter and thicker now. They moved differently, they were slower, and they moved deliberately. I'd spot them crawling along the walls or squeezing into narrow gaps near the shelves. It didn't feel like an infestation. Not yet. Just strange. I remember holding one in my hand just to look at it closely. It wasn't like the cute ones I used to see on social media, or the harmless garden spiders that I'd handled during college. This one looked different. Its body was compact. Its leg twitched, and its eyes looked angry. Not frightened, not confused, pure hatred. As if I had taken its space. I dropped it almost immediately. The following week, a new species appeared in the flat. They were different. Small, green, almost fragile looking. But their presence somehow felt heavier, like they carried a storm inside them. They settled in quietly in the corners, moving really carefully, as if they were waiting for something. The rains, on the other hand, had begun to grow heavier. I think they were hinting an incoming cyclone. I started placing naphthalene balls around the house, lighting camphor both day and night. I remember, back home I used to avoid cleaning whatsoever. But here it was different. I didn't mind, especially since the web appeared every night, no matter how much I cleaned. One day, as I was feeding the stray dogs outside in the compound, the old lady from the second floor called out from her balcony. "Adjusting well?" I smiled and shouted back, "Yes, thank you." I tried to make out her face through the drizzle, but the steady pitter-patter of the rain blurred my vision and stung my eyes. She yelled back, "Come up!" I went to the second floor. Her door was already open. I rang the bell and soon she just appeared, carrying a tray with tea and biscuits. Her home was warm and tidy. I didn't see a single spider anywhere. "Here, have some tea." The rain gets this bad every year. We have made our peace with it. She continued with the usual questions a neighbor asks a new tenant. Then, like any curious person, I asked about the previous tenant. Her face, though, changed. The flicker of unease spread across her face, like fire burning through paper. She lowered her voice and said, "The previous girl disappeared. She got mixed up with bad company. Her body was found a month after she vanished." The apartment was not so warm anymore. So to change the mood, I asked, have the spiders been a problem here for a long time? Or is it just something new?" She gave me a puzzled look and asked, "What spiders?" I told her about the spiders sneaking into my flat, even with the mesh on the windows. She was oddly calm, but the lines on her forehead betrayed her worry. Without a word, she went into the kitchen and brought back a small bundle of herbs. "Boil this in the water and spray it around the house." Her voice was steady, but I could feel the unspoken warning beneath it. I did as she asked. The next day, the crawlers were gone. No more webs. For a while, the house felt calm. But then the electricity started acting up, flickering and cutting out without warning. I knew it was the cyclone approaching. So I stopped worrying and made my peace with candles. But that's when they appeared again. This time it was large. Not massive, but large. Extremely thin legs, sitting on the kitchen tiles. Out of frustration, I started crushing them with my slipper. Its body made a sound I didn't expect. But enough is enough. Monday I will call the pest control, is what I said to myself. The smell of the dead crawlers behind couldn't be covered by any air freshener. Was part rotten, part metallic. Is that even possible? Little did I know the disaster had just begun. I kept killing them. Some were easy, like the little ones with the red eyes. Some, on the other hand, would disappear before I could reach. But every time I thought I'd gotten rid of them, more would appear. And they were growing. Saturday evening, I found one of them on the ceiling above my bed. It was the size of my palm now, green body and yellow eyes. That's when it started to feel something else. Not fear exactly. Something more. The feeling of being observed didn't really leave me, even when no spider was in sight. I did wish to run away, but there was nowhere I could be. I was attached to this place. This was my home. Sunday morning, I saw the elderly lady from before. Sitting by the stairs, she slowly got up and said,
"Don't swat the big ones. You don't want the mother noticing."
Her laugh really creeped me out. So I just shut the door. I wasn't sure whether to question her or to follow her. That evening I took a nap. I dreamed I was trapped inside a web on my bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream. That's when I noticed something. Something above me. A cosmic, slow-moving arachne. Lingering through the shadows, whispering sounds that I couldn't even understand. I woke up with a gasp. Sweat on my neck and a rash on my leg. When I looked closer, the rash had a pattern. Tiny interlocking lines, like web threads, drawn under the skin. The spiders were growing bolder. That night I heard something fall in the kitchen. When I switched on the light, the dishes were scattered across the floor. And there it was. A single, ginormous crawler set on the counter. It wasn't just a spider anymore. Its body bulged, strangely, like it was developing a torso. Two thin ridges pressed outward, almost like shoulders trying to break free. I froze. The slipper in my hand slipped as I looked at the creature in the eyes. It didn't move. It just faced me. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and then went out. Darkness swallowed the kitchen. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The silence pressed in, broken only by a faint, dragging sound on the tile. I ran. My feet felt tangled in unseen threads, but I tore free and I just slammed the bedroom door shut. The lock clicked. Once, twice. And then, silence. I was alone, trapped. The windows no longer reflected the street lights. Outside, no rhythm of any crickets or hum of electricity. This wasn't the world I existed in. I barely slept after that. I told myself just one more day and then the pest control would handle the rest. All my thoughts at this point felt compromised, like I wasn't fully human anymore. Within a day, I noticed I had lost visible weight. The next morning, I woke up tired. My hair fell out in chunks. I still kept finding webs that were woven with the strands of my hair. They were not scattered on the floor, but braided, like someone had placed them there. I stopped cleaning. Within a matter of hours, the webs were everywhere. Some of them shimmered in the dark, stretched across the doorways, along the ceiling, under the bed. They were too many to count, too dense to escape. The arachne I had previously seen in my dreams had started to feel real. She had something to say, but she couldn't. And somehow I was curious enough to know, no matter what or how long I had to wait. And so the thought of calling the pest control on Monday did not even cross my mind anymore. The spiders felt like family. A family I didn't want, but had no choice. That evening, as I sat near the kitchen counter, I noticed a faint, strange smell. Damp and earthly, unlike anything else in the flat. At first, I thought it was rain seeping in. But then I heard something else. A soft, scratching sound coming from the wall behind the fridge. It was barely audible, like nails lightly scraping the wood. I hesitated, but slowly reached out and pressed my fingers along the wall. My fingertips brushed against the faint seam, a thin rectangular outline, but I had never noticed it before. The paint around it was bubbled and peeling. When I pressed gently, the panel just gave away with a quiet creak. It opened a shallow cavity, a dead space inside the wall. Inside, there were 3 egg sacs, massive, soft and pale. 2 were broken open, but the third was pulsing faintly. Near the base, there was something wrapped tightly in a web, human-shaped, thin. Legs were curled and skin was grey. I stared at it for a long time. I had no idea what I was feeling. I got out and I closed the panel. I didn't leave the flat after that. Not really. I stopped going to work. I stopped calling anyone. I don't even remember eating. I only remember the sound of the webs moving. A soft rustle, like wind through grass. I think we were all waiting for the 3rd sack to hatch. One evening, the mesh on the balcony window tore open. But it didn't tear from the outside. It split inward, like something had been pressed against it from the inside of the house. Something too big to be a spider. I don't remember what happened after that. Only flashes. A sharp smell of rot, my feet tangled in thick silk strands. A warm, heavy weight pressing down on my chest, and then darkness. When I came to, the world was blur of bright lights and distant sirens. Voices shouted urgently. Doors slammed shut somewhere above. Heavy footsteps pounded on the stairs. Someone was talking to the police in a low, hurried voice. It was the lady from the 2nd floor. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy and unresponsive. When I finally sat up, I was on the cold kitchen floor. The webs were gone. The walls were clean. The flat felt hollow, too quiet, too empty. My body ached, but the rash on my leg had vanished. The strands of hair I used to find woven into webs disappeared. Even the false panel behind the fridge was sealed, as if it never existed. I heard the old lady talking to the police in a faint murmur. I think she said that I hadn't left the house in days and she was worried. On the other hand, a man in uniform stood nearby. His eyes were tired, but they were filled with concern.
Ma'am, we've had 3 calls this month about an invasion from this flat. All women. Mind telling me what insect were you whispering about on those calls?
He said, flipping through the clipboard. But I stared at him in confusion. I never made any calls. He met my gaze and said,
Yeah, that's what the last tenant said too before disappearing.
He paused. Then without a word, he walked away. His eyes were fixed on the wall behind the fridge. I stood there alone, silence pressing in heavier than before. And even now, I can't shake the feeling that something is still watching.
You heard her, didn't you? All in her own words. Now, I'm not saying that such things always happen when you move into a new house. But sometimes things have been waiting longer than you have. Maybe you're the invader and not them.